Hey guys, it's LOL Rybun or Rybun here, as you know me. I'm doing a voiceover video today because I've already recorded this footage quite a while ago. And I forgot to unmute my microphone when I recorded this footage. And so what ended up happening was the video had no audio at all. And so now I'm going to do my best job of explaining what I said in the video. There may be pauses. While there weren't any in the original video, I can't exactly remember everything I said. So I'll give it my best shot. The first skill of Warlock is Soul Dagger. Soul Dagger is your primary attack, and it does damage over time. This is super useful for the Warlock in the early game, especially because he is the only class that has something that will heal you in the early stages of the game. Because of that, the Warlock is unique in the fact that he is probably the tankiest character in the early game just because of the healing. The other thing this ability allows you to do is get tons of mana to cast your spells, which are pretty costly. While it may not, increase your maximum mana, it increases your regeneration so much so that you'll almost constantly be able to cast all your spells, which is super important on the Warlock because you have to link stuff like the gargoyles and the thundercloud on your head. His secondary skill is the lightning bolt. The lightning bolt it's useful, but really it's nothing compared to the entirety of the rest of his kit. The other spells are so much more useful that I don't put a point into this personally. You may find a use for it, but I don't personally. His third skill, Summon Gargoyle, is super useful. It places a gargoyle underneath you, well, on top of you really, and these fire out lightning bolts in every which direction an enemy is near them. The other thing that these do is they'll fire lightning bolts between them and other gargoyles, which is even more damage, because you've got lightning bolts spraying out and lightning bolts going between the gargoyles constantly. So essentially, the more gargoyles you get out, you're going to be doing more and more damage in the area around the gargoyles. You can set these up like around bosses that are semi-stationary, like the library boss, the Eye, and it'll just tear through their HP bar, which is super useful. You really underestimate how much damage this could do. Just from reading the description. It doesn't sound super great, but it's huge. His final ability is Eye of the Storm. Eye of the Storm is kind of like placing a gargoyle on top of yourself, except it stays on top of yourself. You essentially become the lightning cloud that is a link for all the gargoyles, as well as doing the other functions as the gargoyles, like hitting enemies around you with lightning bolts. This is super good because eventually you can have, I believe, 5 gargoyles. And you also get this lightning cloud. So you've got 6 things all linked together, firing lightning back and forth. And the amount of damage you can dish out when you have all of these things out is, it's really immeasurable. It's kind of crazy. So these are like the bread and butter of the Warlock. Early on, you won't feel that as much because you don't have the mana or the sheer number of things because the gargoyle count goes up as you level it. But you'll definitely feel more power from the primary, but later on, once you get the skill build items and statues and stuff, you'll definitely feel the power of the gargoyle and the lightning cloud. His first passive is incredible. You could think of it as underpowered, but I think it's great. It basically just expands the range of the gargoyle's skills. The Warlock skills, like the gargoyle, the primary attack, the lightning bolt, the lightning cloud, and skills also applies to passive skills, which is important in the next skill. So this is really huge because it means that when you're fighting a boss like the Act 4 boss, which is fairly large, you can place gargoyles on either side of them and the link for sure because you have all that extra range. The next passive is Soul Cleaver. Soul Cleaver is actually where you're going to get a lot of your sustain for both mana and health from, because it basically takes your primary attack and makes it spread like disease. Once you max it out, I believe it's like an 80% chance to spread. You'll see this, I'll highlight it in this video in a second here, the description for the last one. But thinking about that, if you hit 5 enemies, 4 out of 5 of them are going to spread to other enemies if they die, which then will spread to more. I mean, okay, think about, this is a bad reference, but the coronavirus in the United States of America. That shit is contagious as hell. That's basically what the Soul Cleaver is. It's gonna tear through waves, not necessarily doing a ton of damage, but it'll give you thousands upon thousands of sustain, just because it's hitting everyone in the room pretty much to heal you and give you mana. The final passive of the Warlock basically takes all of his skills and makes them broken. All of your lightning bolts from your right click, your Q, or your E are just going to tear through people now. Because not only do they do damage, they have a 50% chance of triggering a lightning bolt that does even more damage. And since it's a lightning bolt, and this thing applies to lightning, I do believe, although I'm not 100% sure, that this lightning bolt can trigger another lightning bolt. Of course, that won't happen infinitely because that just can't happen unless you got incredibly lucky. But this takes your DPS and it makes it, I would say, more than twice as good. While they are doing half damage, you're going to proc it half the time, which will proc half the time, which will proc half the time. And when you think about it, it all adds up. It's probably not twice the damage, but it's a measurable sum. I mean, it's going to do a lot of extra damage. So when you look at the Warlock skills, how it kind of works is in the early game, you're going to rely on the primary. And then once you get to the later stage of the game, you're going to rely on your Gargoyle and your Lightning Bolt to do damage, and your primary to supply you with health and mana so you don't die. Soul Cleaver, spreading it around the map. The extended thing, making Soul Cleaver hit further, spread further. The Gargoyles hit further, everything hit further. Lightning Bolts going to be going fucking everywhere. It'll be phenomenal. You'll love it. It's amazing. Warlock is probably the best tank for the early game because he's just got so much sustain. It's crazy. Alright, so next it looks like we're looking at the chapel. So we'll go over the stuff inside of the chapel for you guys. Although I seem to have stopped to talk about something here, so. Oh, and the other thing I should mention while I'm not showing anything on screen, I forgot to turn off my my stream overlay when I was recording this as well. So you can see all my little stream stuff. It's not relevant to the video at all, but yeah. So here we show you the stuff that you can take for a chapel. The thing I noted most in the actual video when I first recorded it was, this is the skill build. This is obviously how you do the most damage, but for stuff like early game, Path of the Defender is probably better than hitting harder. You'd rather be taking less damage. Same thing here, Blessing of Intellect, you ignore enemies' resistance, but here you may want health regeneration or mana regeneration. Although your primary supply is that, you probably don't want it, so you can probably get away with Blessing of Intellect. But health and mana regen are definitely options here. For making sure you can keep casting those spells even when you get out of combat and no longer have anyone to hit to heal your mana. I know when I first played Warlock, I had issues where if I finished off a room, I'd be out of mana and I'd have to wait a long time to go into the next room. Or I would go into the next room, have no mana, risk it all, and then place down Gargoyles with the mana I got from it. This is crit damage to your skills. You won't need that so much for the early game. Symbol of Essence won't work too well because of the way your primary attack works. You don't really want crit damage on your primary. So you could do Symbol of Wisdom here, would actually be pretty good. This is because before you have Wilmer, skill costs can go down and it doesn't affect you. Once you have Wilmer, you want skill costs to go up, so you definitely do not want the Symbol of Wisdom. Lastly here, this one's pretty obvious. You'll always take Divine Strike. It's the only thing that can match the attack speed of the Warlock. Because it's just fast. Here, I'll show you it here. Yeah. I mean, as you can see, it's not like thief level of speed, but the other things just can't match it in speed to the point that they make up for the damage that you lose for not matching every single attack. In terms of items, it's really different in the early game. You can go whatever because you're not running a skill build yet again. But once you get your skill build, you're definitely be running Lucky Hat and Staff of Volatile Casting because you want the luck to increase your crit chance and your chance of hitting Frenetic Eruption. And then you also want the crit chance from the thing to increase your crit chance to trigger Frenetic Eruption. I was saying here, Markham's Amulet may be a good item because one of the problems with the Warlock is you have all this regeneration, all these regeneration abilities, right? You're constantly getting health and mana and stuff, but your caps aren't necessarily super high. So if something hits you for your cap, you're just dead. So raising your cap makes you able to sustain that higher cap, and then you don't have to worry about dying as much because your main issue isn't your reliability of recovering after being hit. It's your, do I get hit enough in one instance where it kills me? So Markham's is probably one of the best items. Anything that increases health or mana caps or maybe even the regeneration of them. I'm not exactly sure because there's like the Rings of Recovery. I'm not sure if that affects the amount that you get from your passive. I don't think it would, but a variety of items definitely work for the early game. You don't necessarily need to focus on luck or crit. For drinks, yet again, it's weird because it's a skill build. You can go a lot of stuff for the early game, like Smelly Old Man, Groovy Ghost, any of the defensive drinks, because you don't want to die. You have incredible sustain, but if you get hit by too many things in one instance, you're just dead. So I would recommend stuff that gives you evasion, armor, resistance, mana regeneration, so you can increase your spell's uptime. Mellow Mist, minus 10% damage taken. You can get a lot of stuff here, and it's really up to you. But once you get your skill build, you're going to definitely take Evil Infusion. Self-explanatory. It's the only way to get lifesteal and skills. That's huge. I mean, you already have all this sustain. This just adds more to it. So, I mean, there's really no reason not to take this. Then you're going to take the standard combo drinks. Frenetic Eruption and Wicked Sickness. When you crit, you can trigger combo. When you're out of combo, you take extra damage, but you'll almost always be in combo, so that's no problem at all. And then you take, good old Wicked Sickness to increase your damage during combo, but you lose out on some damage while you're not in combo. The next drink we're looking at is Elemental Bruiser, which gives you skill damage and skill cost. The way you normally read this is, okay, I get skill damage, but my skills cost more. That's a negative. Once you have Wilmer, this is, I get skill damage. And they cost more, so I get more skill damage. This is a phenomenal drink. You should always take this on skill builds. Every single time, without fail. The next drink we go over is Starlight Singer, which gives you crit chance with skills, which increases your chance of triggering combo, which increases your damage. It's just a process, really. You lose out on some of your base mana, so when you take that with Elemental Bruiser in the early game, you will not be able to last because you just can't trigger your skills enough. With the enhanced cost with the less mana sucks. I was saying here you can make an argument for Overflowing Physique when you're first playing through because you don't really use your skills too much, but it's probably not the best. And then I took a look at some of the other drinks, and I think the thing I came to a conclusion on was the Hairy Maggoth right here. Is a pretty good drink in the sense that it gives you extra skill cost, which is a benefit later on, and you gain 1% of your current mana when scoring crits with skills, which you're already doing. You could take this instead of Starlight Singer if you needed more mana, because it gives you more skill cost, which is more damage. You don't lose the base mana, so basically you're going to be around the same-ish area, and it may work for you, it may not, but that was the speculation I was making here. The other thing you could do, I guess, is take it instead of the one that increases damage, the Elemental Bruiser. the damage and cost. You could take that instead. You'd have more mana regen, more crit chance to trigger the mana regen. It'd just be nice. For statues, it's pretty self-explanatory. There's a statue called Cedric, which we'll go over here, which is very similar to Callus, but for like Warlocks and Magic Resist. It changes Magic Resist into skill power. So similar to how the Paladin can essentially become your Ranger, the Warlock can essentially become your Wizard if your Cedric is above or at level 20. Because at that point, they basically do the same exact thing when you're leveling up their class titles. Not to say you just drop out on the other one, but it's definitely an advantage. Wilmer is the MVP of any skill build. 20% faster skills, so you have them off cooldown more often, and 5% of skill cost as damage to your skills. I point down here. The 180 mana cost we're seeing here for this spell at my level 7 Wilmer, that's 35% of that, so basically 1/3 or 60 damage. 60 damage gets added to a spell that does 40 damage. So I'm essentially hitting for 2.5 times damage on that spell. That's incredible. Kira right here. You can make an argument for Kira. I'd say that you could take some other stuff too. Big advantage of Kira, you get these arrows that scale off of skill power. And increases the base damage here when you level it up. Base damage is hard to come by in this game, so base damage is super huge here, but your Wilmer's already doing tons of base damage stuff for you, so this isn't necessarily the best. But for like primary builds, you can get way more base damage on Kira than you can get on your primary attack eventually, so you could swap over to a skill-based primary build with Kira. I was saying here, the other stuff you could take Bulgarth for triggering a combo blast around you to defend you when you're in combo. It also increases the length of combo, so in between those rooms, you've got more time to walk to them and then place down all your statues while still maintaining your combo. And then the other statue you could take is Ozreth, which gives you poison clouds, which also increases your damage to poison targets. So that kind of works great because you're already spreading the plague. So why not spread more of it, right? I think I say here that this concludes my video. I don't know if there's any more commentary to this. So I'll go ahead and say I'm ending the video here. If not, you'll see me in a second. Thank you guys for watching. Please like the video, subscribe, dislike the video if you didn't like the video, comment if you have anything to say, any suggestions, anything you would like to critique. And I'm sorry if the voiceover was super scuffed. This is my first time doing something like this, and I tried to keep it in sync with the video, and I hope it comes through like that. So I'll see you guys in the next one. Thank you so much for watching. Bye.